Race 2 of the penultimate round of the ADAC GT4 Germany 2020 season, and the championship is very much still alive. For the first time, we have new leaders at the top of the championship, and it's the car that starts on the front row but not in pole position. Hugo Sasser, Mike David Ortman. They won yesterday, but it's the driver combination who have been leading the championship all season long, Indy Dontra and Phil Dorr, who start on pole position for this race 10 of a 12-race season for the ADAC GT4 Germany. We are reaching the business end of the championship. It is all to play for. This could go down to the last lap of the last race of the season. The way this is going, Hugo Sasser scoring that P2 for the Aston Martin Vantage for Pro Sport Racing. It is going to be dramatic, and just adding to the drama, the weather. It has clouded over after a glorious sunny weekend. There are some very dark clouds doing the rounds. There is rain in the air. The next hour could be very dramatic, and it could be very exciting, couldn't it, Adam Weller?
It could be indeed, and I think this man, Hendrik Still, could be one of the main fireworks providers. Came back into the top 10 from 25th yesterday. Much stronger position of much stronger starting position of 4th place today for he and Max Kronberg. Based on the pace we saw out of them in the race yesterday, I suspect that car is a favourite for a podium.
Yes, when I saw them in qualifying this morning, I thought, oh yeah, they're going to be there. There is a massive crowd here at the Sachsenring. It is absolutely rammed, and they're all here to see the ADAC GT4 Germany. A great shot there through the pit wall as the cars start on their formation lap for this race 10 of a 12-race season. It is a packed grid, and high drama has been the issue all weekend in all the classes. Let's take a look at the starting grid, and it is, as you can see, Indy Dontra starts on pole position with Hugo Sasser alongside once again an all Aston Martin front row, all Porsche row 2, Finn Zulauf with Hendrik Still alongside, both for WNS Motorsports. Aston Martin again, Roman LaRue and Alex Hartvig line up on row 3 of the grid. Row 4, Nico Hanke and Stefan Bastanchiev. He is on 8th on the grid for this race. William Tregurtha, we welcome him alongside Julian Hanses, and he is with Donna Munding on row 5 of the grid. Row 6, Nico Gruber and Marcel Marchevitz for Schnitzelam Racing. Row 7, Denis Bulatov and Christopher Rernov, another of the Aston Martins. And then on row 8 is Mikael Schrey, defending champion, alongside Tano Neumann for Overdrive Racing. A lot of work had to be done on that car overnight. Patrick Steinmetz lines up alongside Leo Pichler, one of their talented Allied Racing crew. And then Racing One's Ewan Mackay on row 10 with Juliana Holzem, one of the Holzem twins, on row 10. Row 11, Tim Neuser and Cedric Pirro in the only Toyota in the race, and on row 12, Robin Falkenbach and Max Rozan. Row 13 of the grid, and that is Teo Noe and Christian Koch. And then bringing up the rear of the pack, a guest driver, and that is Ralf Grösel, and he is one of the team that are guesting for Eastside Motorsport alongside Josef Knott. This is looking like it could be very exciting indeed. So the cars heading up towards turn 14. This is a 14-turn track, 4 to the right, 10 to the left, 3.671 kilometers round. That is about 2.281 miles. Lots of undulation. The car's running in an anti-clockwise direction. Tyre degradation is an issue. Rain may well be an issue too. Now the safety car ducks off into the pit lane. We are standing by for 1 hour of action for the ADAC GT4 Germany, and we are go. It's a great start. Indy Dontra already moving ahead. There's Stefan Bastanchiev also ducking out, but Donchev leading into turn 1, and Sasser has got swallowed up by the pack a little bit. He gets together with Hendrik Still gathers it up. They continue on their way, but a poor start for Hugo Sasser. The rest of the field comes streaming through. Finn Zulauf in there as well, up into 2nd place. And most of the cars, well, it looks like they've survived a dramatic opening corner there, but it is Indy Doncher who leads the way.
So difficult in these early stages of the race. 2, 3 wide at times, especially given this is it. This is the closing race for the ADAC categories here this weekend. The marbles are everywhere. So when they're going 2 or 3 wide on the first lap, it's a big problem. Meanwhile, big problems for the number 9 car of Tano Neumann. That's a huge shame for Overdrive Racing. They worked overtime overnight to repair that car, and Cedric Pirro has a huge gash in the door of that Toyota Supra.
I wonder if those two damaged cars are related to each other, and that car is absolutely beached. Yes, as you said yesterday, Joachim Bolting had a very large accident. They have worked overtime to get that car back on track, and it's lasted for less than a lap. The safety car is out for at least 2 cars that are stranded out on the track now. Hopefully we will get a replay and see what's happened. But that Toyota Supra, which has been so successful this year, finished 7th yesterday, took its first win at the Nürburgring earlier on this year. That is in the gravel trap, and the number 9 car is not going any further either.
Pulls up basically exactly where he had his big accident yesterday, or rather where Bolting had his big accident yesterday. Actually bumped into Joachim on the tunnel between the paddock and where we are situated here for commentary. He looked deathly serious and ready to go. Unfortunately, he's not going to get the chance to go. Car pulled up before they even complete a lap.
So out of the car he gets, and they will want to put this weekend behind them and just think about Hockenheim. Having another look at the start, and Sasa really didn't get out of the blocks very quickly. The start is under investigation by our race stewards. And look at this on the outside. Sasa getting together with Hendrik Still doing a nice bit of drifting there. Did well to keep that out of the gravel trap, didn't he?
Yeah, and Vassather really did slam his way across the track to try and get to the inside, and there is confirmation that the 2 cars' demises were connected. Big contact between Pirro and Neumann, among others, and you can also see spits of rain on the lens at turn 7 on that replay. We did rather suspect, didn't we? The darkening clouds in the sky gave us some concerns, and I think we might be valid in those concerns.
Also involved in that incident was one of the Allied Racing Porsches. I think it might have been Leo Pichler. So that's a car that it tends to either finish on the podium or end up in the barrier. It's great to have these young chargers, but it can be quite lively, and out in the middle of the pack is a great way to pick up a bit of damage and get involved in some incidents. Just while we're behind the safety car, let's have a look at the running order. It is Indy Doncher from Finn Zulauf and Hugo Sasa. Those are the 1, 2, 3. Alex Hartvig, another of the Allied Racing cars, is in 4th place. Then Hendrik Still, Romain Leroux, Nico Hanke, Stefan Bastantiev, Donna Munding, and William Tregurtha rounding out the top 10. Good to welcome William Tregurtha here alongside Julian Hanses, making his return to the class after quite a long time away. A lot of drivers still in the championship hunt. Ortmann and Sasa leading the way. Their main rivals leading the race, though, Phil Doer and Indy Doncher, they're 14 points ahead. Romain Leroux and Ben Doer still very much in it, just 15 points adrift. And Romain Leroux currently 6th on the track as we see the Supra getting towed to safety.
Yeah, difficult weekend for them. Poor qualifying this morning for Cedric. I think he made a couple of mistakes during the session, and now not getting even 1 lap into the race. Of course, yesterday we saw them seemingly struggling with tyres more so than some of the others. A lack of grip, seemingly the order of the day in the Supra. It's worth noting as well that it's going to be harder still for the drivers today. Of course, yesterday, owing to barrier repairs, the race was reduced to 50 minutes plus 1 lap. Today, we're going the full hour plus 1 lap, which means 10 more minutes that these tyres that always struggle around the Sachsenring, no matter who makes the rubber, the Sachsenring always bites when it comes to the tyre wear. They're going to have to go the full distance today.
We're riding on board with Rob Dobmeyer, the safety car driver. Lots of communications between himself and race control. We don't have any notification of the safety car coming in yet. Of course, running behind the safety car will take a bit of pressure off the tyres.
Very true.
So the more laps they do behind the safety car, the more chance we've got of more cars finishing. The rain that has been in the air is very much to the west of us at the moment. It's jet black out the side of the circuit. It may be that it's passing to the west. The spits haven't turned into anything more at the moment, but we still have 55 minutes or so of this race remaining to try and get through without the wet stuff coming down. That really would throw the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons.
Especially here in ADAC GT4 Germany. We mentioned this back at Zandvoort, and like the GT3 cars, these are more road car in nature, and that applies to many things, including the wheels. No centre lock wheels, no quick release on these. It's a 5-stud wheel, and therefore it takes a while to change tyres if the rain decides to join us. Safety car in this lap then.
So it will be the job of Indy Doncher to back the pack up. He's done that a few times over the years. Of course, Indy Doncher, not only a veteran of GT4 racing, but also GT3, has featured many times in the accompanying GT Masters series that the ADAC run. But now leading this race is Indy Doncher, wants to get to the top of the championship where he has been all season long. Finn Zulauf in the number 31 car is sharing the seat with Nikolai Moller-Manson, the 2020 champion in ADAC GT4. So a lot of experience there. Of course, Hugo Sasser, Mike David Norman, not only did they win yesterday, they won a race last year at this same event. They love this circuit, and that partnership are very, very potent indeed in the Pro Sport Aston Martin. So lights are off on the safety car as the cars come down the waterfall. Let's hope that doesn't become a real waterfall. And disappearing off into the distance. Doncher backing the pack up. His aim will be to hit the accelerator when Finn Zulauf anticipates it least. And as they come up towards turn 14, you can just see Indy Doncher just looking in the mirrors. As cool as a cucumber is Indy Doncher. Right, there you go. You hear the roar of that Aston Martin. And Zulauf has anticipated it well. Sasser, not so much. Already looking like Hartwig wants to make a move on that Aston Martin. Green flag is out. There's a car. Was that Tregurtha? One of the Mercedes onto the gravel, kicking up a bit of dust. And there's a challenge for position into turn 1 on the inside of Bastanchiev. It's Nico Hanka who was trying to reclaim the position. Bastanchiev, well, he's a man who's got a newfound aggression this weekend.
Yes, exactly right. I think you need the elbows out at Sachsenring. It's a requirement. Much like minimum height on a roller coaster, you need to be able to defend to succeed at the Sachsenring. We had Christopher Werner going out wide there on the restart as well in the third of the Pro Sports Aston Martins. And there is Tregurtha, as you said, having a bit of a moment.
I think it might have been Gruber, right?
Ah, yes, that would make sense. Yeah, the sister CV Performance Group Mercedes. 7 Mercedes on the grid. The top one is 10th place Tregurtha. Quite unusual that we don't have Merc representation up at the front.
Interesting in qualifying this morning, William Tregurtha and Stefan Bastanchiev, they did what we would dread. They waited for everybody to go out, do their thing, and then they came out with 5 minutes remaining of the session and just had one shot at pole position. It worked quite well for both of them while the rest of them were out doing banker laps. Right, look at this. A challenge for 3rd place, or is it a challenge for 2nd? Hugo Sasser taking a different line into turn 14.
And just getting notification there that car number 1 is under investigation. Michael Schrey, I should say, under investigation for overtaking under safety car, and that is because of the Tregurtha mistake. So, in theory, per the letter of the law, he should have lifted out and stayed behind until the start-finish line. He's going to have an argument on his hands about that.
Undertaking over the safety car, never a good idea. So Indy Doncher suddenly has Finn Zulauf putting the heat on as well. It's kind of like the piano accordion. They're 1 minute they're close to each other, then there's a bit of spacing out, then the next 2 close in. There is nothing between the top 10 or so. Look at this, all glued together. Indy Doncher, 1 slip from him in that Aston Martin, and he is going to get railroaded right down the pack. Finn Zulauf looking very eager, a driver with great aspirations, would love to be in GT3. Driver behind him, Hugo Sasser, has had experience in GT3 racing. currently in third place, currently the championship leader, looking to extend that lead. Down the waterfall they come, sliding. Look at all the rubber and marbles off the racing line. This is a track that eats tyres for breakfast, dinner and tea, and it is an absolute tyre wrecker.
Indeed. Car number 8 also was under investigation for overtaking under safety car. That's been decided, no further action. So the Drago Racing Team's NVO car of Robin Falkenbach is out of those particular woods. Still no decision regarding Michael Schrey. So we'll have to see what happens to this man that we ride on board with now. You see the Mercedes ahead getting bigger and bigger in his windscreen as he runs down towards turn 1. And that is because the BMW M4 GT4 has historically been very strong in a straight line. We'll see a new generation car next year. They were exhibiting that at the Nürburgring a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago, here in the GT4 paddock. And very excited to see what that car will do in 2023.
What do you think about Indy Doncia's pace? Because the whole field has now closed up. We really have one long queue of cars. The entire field currently running around turns 7 and 8. And I wonder whether the pace of Doncia is just holding them back a little bit, or is it that it's... I know we've not far from having had the safety car, but it doesn't feel like the leaders are breaking away particularly.
I think it might be a matter of everyone just kind of setting something of an average delta among themselves to try and keep these tyres together. I don't think there's any merit to pushing fully, and I think that's the 20 car, though, up the inside. That's Dennis Bulatov trying to make a move on Tregurtha, and I think it may well be possible here, going into the final corner. Nicely done from Dennis Bulatov. You wouldn't believe me if I said that was the number 20 car, would you? And now they've got to worry about the BMW behind as well. He won't quite be close enough to be alongside, but he could make a move. The legs of the Beamer are proving strong again.
And Tregurtha trying to come back on the outside. They need bigger numbers on that number 20 car. But the BMW does come steaming through. So Tregurtha having to fight and defend at the same time. I have to remind you that the Tregurtha car is carrying a weight penalty of 10 kilograms on account of finishing second yesterday. Hugo Sasser is carrying 15 kilos extra success penalty. And Robin Falkenbach and Jan-Philipp Springhoff are carrying 5 kilograms extra. Again, the success penalty for one race only as a result of the 1-2-3 yesterday. And this is a replay of the Allied Racing Porsche doing what it does best, and that is rallycross in the hands of Leo Pichler.
Yeah, that was very lucky, really. We saw yesterday a Porsche off there, the 73 overdrive car, which hasn't taken the start today. So easy to end up in either wall if you put a foot wrong out of the final corner. Top, well, 8-9 cars all in one long queue, to your earlier point, Brian, as around the outside is going not Steinmetz, my apologies. Yes, no, I was right first time. It is Steinmetz. Yeah. I'm getting my GT Masters and GT4 mixed up. Steinmetz in the number 10 Schubert Motorsport BMW under pressure, or pressuring Tregurtha. Interesting scrap between these two, and Steinmetz again using those Bavarian horses to good effect and didn't even need to outbrake Tregurtha. Got it done before they even reached T1.
It's amazing how weight penalty can make so much difference. 10 kilograms in that Mercedes. It feels to be a little bit more cumbersome today. Doesn't help that Steinmetz is a driver who is quite open about the fact that he's willing to exchange paint with anybody in his quest to go forwards. And that's exactly what he's trying to do as he moves up into that 11th place. It just strikes me as we look at this lead queue that if one person gets offline and goes out wide, they are going to get railroaded about 8 or 9 places. Now Bostanchiev also rushing to join the back of that particular queue. Nico Hanker ahead of him, Romain Leroux, Henrik Still, Alex Hartwig, then Hugo Sasser, Finn Zulauf, and Indy Doncia all in a line. Doncia holding on to that position. We are a quarter of the way through the race. The rain is holding off. Just to remind you, it is a timed race, 60 minutes in duration. There is a pit window that will open 25 minutes into the race, i.e. in 10 minutes time. It will remain open for 10 minutes, and during Following that time, every car will be required to visit the pits for a mandatory stop and driver change. And as if that wasn't enough, there's a minimum pit stop time of 95 seconds. Go below that at your peril. Hendrik Still is challenging Alex Hartvig. This is for 4th place. Porsche v Porsche, side by side into turn 1. That car has been rapid all weekend, but there's an Aston Martin of Romain Leroux 007 who moves to the inside. So Still, one moment looked like he was going to gain a position, next moment looked like he was going to lose one, as you were at the moment.
Interesting to see at the moment. We've got the top 9 entirely populated by Aston Martins and Porsches. The two sets of drivers that I've heard the most tyre woes from, Aston Martin and Porsche. I just wonder if some of these guys are pushing the boat out a little bit too hard in the early going. If we do stay dry, and thus we have to stay on the same pair of slick tyres, or set of slick tyres, I just wonder if the last few minutes might be a bit perilous for some of these in the top 9.
And of course, this is very much a team sport, as we see little splatters of rain on the camera lens again. Whatever state the car is in and the pit stop time, the co-driver has to take that on and run with it to the end of the race. And if the tyres are shot, then you're not going to be very popular with your co-driver if you hand him something that is down to the canvas. So it is very much a team sport. Take too much out too early on, you might suffer at the end of the race. We've seen an awful lot of punctures and blowouts across the board in all the classes that have been running here this weekend. That could so be the case here. Looks to me like Alex Hartvig is struggling a bit for pace. The front 3 have broken clear, and that's allowing Hugo Sasser now, without the pressure of Hartvig behind, to start looking at Finn Zulauf.
And defensive driving there from Hartvig. Once again into turn 1. Picked the inside line, held it nicely. Hendrik Still waiting in the wings. And Romain Leroux looking for a way past also. Hanke having a good run there in 9th place in the 95 car as well. That would currently be a best finishing result if the red flag were to come out. At least best of the season for Hanke and his co-driver Simon Corner Prim. So many Duo Motorsports Aston Martins out there. They don't lack for numbers, do they?
They really don't. Yes, they occupy at least half of the field. Yes, in Dolce, Finn Zulauf, Hugo Sasser breaking clear. Then this battle, Alex Hartvig, been so impressed with car 30, Hendrik Still and Max Kronberg. They were so rapid yesterday. The WNS Motorsport Porsche has some great speed around here. Romain Leroux, along with co-driver Ben Dorr, still looking for their first win in ADAC GT4. Nico Hanke and Simon Conner-Prim for Duo Motorsport also in there. Stefan Bastanchev, 8th place. That would be a good result for him if things finished as they were. But of course, there's an awful lot of running now between now and the checkered flag. About 42 minutes plus 1 lap, and already there is a challenge for 2nd place. Hugo Sasser flashing the lights into turn 1, doing everything to distract Finn Zulauf in front. Zulauf holds a nice tight line through the corner. There's nothing that Sasser can do at the moment. Meanwhile, there's the gap back to Alex Hartvig. Hendrik still behind, and Romain Leroux behind him.
Must say, Sasser, of course, lest we forget, he's trying to right the wrongs of lap number 1. He was on the front row of the grid, and Zulauf very ably snuck through at turn 1 on lap 1. The Porsche very much the filling of the Aston Martin sandwich at the moment in that top 3 dice. And as you rightly said a little earlier on, Hartvig has dropped away from that top 3 a little bit, although at the moment it seemed as though he's getting away from Hendrik Still somewhat as well.
We've had no major place changes at the moment, but it does have that feeling of somebody pulling a grenade out, a pin out of a grenade, and then getting ready to throw it. There is a sense of endurance, and then we get to the closing stage of the race and all hell breaks loose. That is what seems to happen quite often. At the moment, Doncha is leading the way, but he's not opening up a big gap. It was 0.493 last time across the line. Finn Zulauf, he can't really challenge for that lead, because if he does, Sasser is going to get past, and Sasser might be doing that already. They run side by side briefly, and then Sasser drops back in, picks up a little bit of a draft from the Porsche to the outside, trying to force the Porsche to block and open up that inside line, but Finn Zulauf has it covered off, And that is allowing Indy Dontje now just to break a little bit clear, because Finn Zulauf has gone from attacker to defender.
Interested, I'm very interested to see who of this long train of cars will decide to pit in at the first opportunity in just over 5 minutes' time. When that pit window opens, we'll expect some to go the distance, and I'm sure many people behind Hendrick Still will be hoping that both Hartwig and Still take the first opportunity so they can maybe get some time in clear air. We do seem to develop these little trains at the Sachsenring, and the undercut here can be very, very strong. We've seen countless illustrations of that already this weekend.
Amazingly, the field is still very much running together. It hasn't really stretched out. We've got a couple of cars, Josef Knopp and Grosel as well, Ruben Grosel, who've dropped back a little, but the rest of the field pretty much in a queue. It is incredibly competitive. The balance of performance doing a great job making all these different cars very similar. Of course, the added gravel on the tyres of whoever it was that went wide is not going to aid pace at all. But look at this, drivers are getting ready for the pit stop and the mandatory change, and all the co-drivers will be getting suited and booted as we speak, because in 4 minutes the pit window will open and suddenly it's going to be all change.
Yeah, that was Nikolai Moller-Madsen getting himself ready to go. The Danish driver with lots and lots of experience. One podium to the name of the team so far this season. Also some misfortunes. You may recall Ottersleben race 2. Contact with their own teammate put them into the gravel and ended the race. But Nikolai will be looking to capitalise on that second place, should the car still be in second when Finn Zulauf hands it over.
Robin Falkenbach in 15th place was under investigation for overtaking under the safety car. That has now been declared as no further action. I should think that Mikael Schrey is praying for the same. As we ride on board with him, we can see odd spots of rain in the air. Nothing too much to worry about at the moment, but the championship does look to be drifting away from Gabriel Piana and Mikael Schrey. They were looking to defend their championship in the ADAC GT4 Germany, but those pesky cars in front, particularly those Aston Martins, are really giving them a run for their money this year. We ride with Indy Dontje, great camera angle. You can see him as calm as you like in the car, and that is also the view out of the front. Along the pit straight he comes. The gap, 0.544, so just a smidge over half a second from Finn Zulauf. That is changing very much on every corner. A similar gap to Hugo Sasser back in 3rd place.
Very impressive driving from Indy here under pressure. I don't think there have been many points where the top 3 cars have been covered by more than a second. Currently just under a second between Dontje, Zulauf and Sasser. And then 1.9 seconds back to Hartwig in 4th place. Indy, of course, a vastly experienced driver. Had a good run here last year in a ADAC Motorsports. McLaren put some good performances in. I think got a podium or 2 that weekend, and has taken to the full season campaign here alongside Phil Durr very nicely indeed. And of course they are one of 2 ADAC Motorsport Aston Martins that are very much in the title hunt at the moment.
I think with ADAC Motorsport, it really feels as though with them sticking to one brand this year, and all the 15 cars or however many it is that they have in this race being Aston Martins, you feel that sticking to one brand, they can actually focus on it, share data, and it helps a lot as opposed to running different brands across the same team.
Yes, and if you're wondering why they why they have previously run different brands, it's because the ADAC Group itself is a big-time supercar dealership. You see it each and every weekend here in the ADAC GT4 Germany paddock. They bring a selection of road-going supercars from Lamborghini, McLaren, Aston Martin, and probably a few more. Dallara as well. A couple of weekends ago, they brought the Stradale along, and they really are a multifaceted automotive business. And I think the idea was, well, let's showcase as many of our brands as possible. But now I think this year they've kind of synergised around Aston Martin and gone, right, let's go for this championship. And to your point, yes, it seems to be working.
Makes competitive sense, doesn't it? Apart from the fact there's loads of Durr Motorsport cars on the track, there's also several Durr drivers. Two of them, in fact, Ben Durr, who is sharing duties with Romain Leroux in the 007 car, and the driver that you saw with the helmet on, Phil Durr, the older brother of Ben, who is sharing driving duties with Indy Doncia. He will be taking over, well, anytime from 25 seconds onwards, because that's when the pit window will open. Indy Doncia, he looks to have a handle on it. I can't imagine the team wanting to bring him in too quickly because he's got an open track in front of him. You can see the pit window getting ready to open in 10, 9, 8, you know the rest, seconds. And then there will be a move of cars into the pits as drivers and teams strategize to try and work their way up the grid. Just to remind you of our graphics, the light grey P means that the driver hasn't pitted, a dark coloured P means they have pitted, and a red P means that they have gone below the minimum pit stop time of 95 seconds. We saw in Aston Martin, that is Romain Leroux in, so Ben Durr will be taking over that. Stefan Bastanchev is in, he will be handing over to Pavel Lefterov, and their work is done for the weekend. They can now watch their co-drivers do all the hard work. You can see from your graphic that Robin Falkenbach is into the pits as well, and Falkenbach will be handing over to his co-driver, that is Jan Philip Springhoff, of course. So there you see into the pits, and that is one of the Pro Sports. We all jumped there. We thought that might have been Sasa. That is Christopher Röhrner, the number 48 Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin. He's sharing with Yevgen Sokolovsky. They were running in 19th place, so quite a good run for them. Kept it out the barrier, that's the main thing. Yeah, but suspension damage by the looks of it. The two front wheels not pointing the same way.
Well spotted.
So I think that may have been either light contact with the Mercedes that was just going out of shot there, and or a failure that sent Christopher Röhrner to a bit of rally. They did build a rally spec Aston Martin Vantage about 15 years ago. I can confirm that's not one of them though. So multiple things wrong with that picture. Confirmation that the incident is under investigation, and the stewards do believe that it was Teo Noe who was involved. So Mercedes and Aston Martin getting together, the stewards are taking a look at that, and if they feel as though there has been a penalty that needs awarding, they will do it. And so what we just got there was what we saw after the camera cut away in the live pictures, and that's that he went back into the gravel a second time, mercifully close to a marshal post, but he's getting himself dug into that gravel trap. He's a long way away from the circuit, but you see it's currently covered under local yellows. Let's hope it doesn't need anything more than that. It might be we go full course yellow, of course, particularly with the pit window open. The race steward does not like to throw a safety car when the pit window is open, because it can disadvantage so many drivers, those who have or haven't pitted, depending on where the race is at. But at the moment, it looks as though they're going to try and drag that car to safety without going full course yellow. The 1, 2, 3 still out on track is Indy Doncia leading away from Finn Zulauf and Hugo Sasa, who is going to blink first in the safety car window. You can see cars that have gone into the pits. William Tregurtha is one of them. He's handing over to Julian Hanses. They had a great day yesterday. You can see the clock ticking down as they time themselves. Pit entry to pit exit is the 95 seconds. Being very careful not to go below that. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as you were at the moment, but this is likely to get very jumbled up within the next 6, 7 minutes or so. Yeah, it will, and obviously some of those that have pitted early, I think chief among them, Ben Durr and Pavel Lefterov, will be looking to try and be further up the order, but there goes Zulauf with a lovely move, but he's not going to get the corner covered off. So Indy Doncia says, well, I hope you like your 3 seconds in the lead, because I want to keep leading the way. Thank you very much. I think it lulled us all to a false sense of security. He's just been hanging there, and then suddenly he dived through, and Doncia, he's a wise old fox, doesn't look at all fazed by it, does he? I think there was a smile in that helmet, to be honest with you. A wry one. A wry smirk indeed. And in fact, Zulauf almost gave the position away to Hugo Sasa. Look here, you see Doncia left a bit of a gap, then he saw Zulauf on the inside, and he thought, I know what you're doing, and he just took that tighter line into the corner, retook the position. I had to say 10 out of 10 for Finn Zulauf for giving it a go though, because it almost worked, didn't it? But Doncia holds on and just takes the racing line through the next corner, slams the door in Finn's face, and suddenly Finn has Hugo to deal with instead.
Yellow flags withdrawn at turn 4, Castrol Omega.
Good job.
So, yeah, good job indeed from the marshals and the recovery crews.
Julian Hanses has a red P. Oh, no, he took over from William Tregurtha. And we all know that red P is bad news, and that's exactly what's happened for Julian Hanses. If he has gone below the pit stop time, and our graphic suggests that, and in fact the graphic on your screen, oh, that's a different one. A penalty lap for pushing another car for Teo Noe. He will have to visit the penalty box, as indeed will Julian Hanses if it is confirmed he's gone below that pit time. Penalty box, you see it there on the left-hand side of your screen. The drivers will need to pass through that at no more than 50 kilometers an hour for one lap. It's off the racing line. It's a good way of giving a penalty without a drive-through, which would utterly wreck somebody's race, but it will cost a few places. We'll keep an eye on the Julian Hanses situation, and there it is, car 4, and that's Teo Noe. It's been a baptism of fire coming back into GT4. Of course, last year's junior champion. He's overtaken by the sister car, the number 8 Jan-Philipp Springhold Robin Falkenbach car. But Teo Noe, it's been great to welcome him back here. He's replaced Gabriel Jakova in that car alongside Robert Howe, but it hasn't been a great weekend for him so far.
No, it hasn't. To loop back around to the Hanses situation, the time on the timing screen for his stop, 1 minute 34.8, 94.8 seconds. So per the timing screen, he was 2/10 shy of the required time from pit in to pit out.
And there is confirmation that it is being investigated by the race stewards. And now that looks like Sasser, who's ducking off into the pits. He's getting ready to hand over to Mike David Ortman. So Sasser's work is done for the weekend. Mike David Ortman's for today is about to start. So keeping to the speed limit, into the pits we come. We said it yesterday, it's a real partnership between Sasser and Mike David Ortman. They're best mates as well as co-drivers, and it really works. A potent combination. Potentially championship favourites, particularly as they are at the top of the championship at the moment. Mike David Ortman has a completely different build to Hugo Sasser. That is why he's carrying an insert that goes into the seat, just like a little bit of a booster seat, really. Now Hugo is out of the car. He helps Mike to get buckled in. Also there, that is, which car's that? One of the ADAC Motorsport cars into the pits as well. That would be Nico Hanko, wouldn't it? And handing over to Simon Connor Prim. And the car is, door is closed. So the co-driver helping the main driver, the first driver, to get buckled up. They're only allowed 2 mechanics to work on the car. A lot of conversation going on between Hugo Sasser and Mike David Ortman. That's good, yeah. So, doors shut. I can only imagine he just said, give it the large. I mean, that's all you can say, really, isn't it? Feels like it's been stationary a long time, but then it is a longer pit stop than we are used to in, say, GT Masters. That 95 seconds is a very long time to be in the pits. So Ortman will know when to power it back up. He will aim to hit the pit exit line when the clock strikes 0 and not before. And that's exactly what's happened. In fact, he's overshot by a second. So that's a second on track that he would have lost out on.
Yeah, you've always got to try and hit that delta, or at least get as close to it as you possibly can. There you see the 69 car under pressure. That is Indy Doncia, still our race leader, still yet to pit, and they will have to pit this time by because the clock only has 1 minute and 50 seconds left for the pit window. If they went past pit entry again, they wouldn't get around in time to get a pit stop done within the window, and that is very, very harshly penalised.
And Julian Hanses has received a visit to the penalty box, so that's been awarded to him by the race stewards for going below the pit stop time. Expect the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the pits this time around. It's suddenly going to get very busy again in pit lane when this lot come around. Hanses will lose a handful of places because the cars are running so close together on track. Here are the leaders heading around turn 13 shortly to go up the steep climb, 12.8% to be precise, of turn 14, and now they will peel off into the pits, ready for their mandatory stop and driver change. That's the 1, 2, 3. Now this is going to be interesting. Will it be tempting to run the clock too close to the mark? Of course, if you do, you're in all sorts of trouble. They have a race logic device on the dashboard which allows them to time it. Look at the traffic jam. That is one of the Hofer Racing by ADAC Motorsport BMWs coming out as well. It was Gabriel Piana at the wheel of that one. And now our race leader, Indy Doncha, climbs out of the car. His work is done. And into the car climbs Phil Durr.
It's interesting with this 95-second pit window, as you alluded to. It does feel like a long wait. It also sometimes creates issues for both cars that are still on track and cars that are just coming out of the pits, because most of our circuits are 3.5 to 4.5 kilometers in length. Ergo, they take somewhere around 90 to 105 seconds to complete. That means that often the cars coming out of the pits rejoin a battle for whatever position they might be interrupting.
Well, Hugo Sasser at the moment has just rounded turn 8 and into turn 9, so he is still out at the back of the circuits. We're going to be keeping, not Hugo Sasser, Mike David Ortman, I beg your pardon. He's changed, doesn't he? Mike David Ortman in the 24 car, so we're going to keep an eye on where he is. There's still those times that are ticking down. You can see that at the top of the watch, it's Phil Durr at the top of the standings, and Mike David Ortman will be now heading up towards turn 14, so we will see where they come out in relation to each other, but it does look as though
drag race.
Yeah, absolutely. Drag racing here at the Sachsenring, but it doesn't look like Mike David Ortman is going to gain advantage. If anything, he might have lost a place, or has he? Still, he keeps going onto the inside line. Of course, the cars coming out of the pits are not allowed to cross the white line, and in fact, having just been preaching doom and gloom, Mike David Ortman has done the overcut, the undercut, and got past Phil Durr. So Mike David Ortman takes over the lead of the race.
Well, that's going to be something that's going to give Hugo Sasser a great amount of delight. Perhaps wasn't expecting that. I'm not sure Pro Sport would have seen that coming. We've got one of the BMWs spun around there. That's the number 2 car from the ADAC Motorsports outfits. That's Tim Reiter at the wheel at this stage. He's just about going to get the car out of the gravel.
And Nikolai Moller-Madsen is under investigation for an unsafe release out of the pit, so there may be a penalty incoming there. This is a replay getting together with Julian Hanses, the 85 car. That car's been in the wars, hasn't it? And the Hofer Racing by ADAC Motorsport BMW. That was the view from the sister car, and they got a great view of that. There'll be plenty of discussion about that after the race, won't there? And all of that actually allows Gabriel Piana to get a jump on Julian Hanses.
And a big moment for another of the BMWs there, airborne and in the gravel out of turn 9 for the Schubert BMW, the number 10 car, which has now been taken over by Von Zabienski. Car 31, as we mentioned, Nikolai Moller-Madsen under investigation, unsafe release from the pit. I must say, that 85 car, I'm amazed the suspension is still pointing the right way on that one. You can see how heavy of a hit that was based on the, should we call it geometry at this point? I feel like that might be overstating just how bad that suspension is.
Next time someone asks you what crabbing is, just show them a video of that. That is crab-like indeed. The number 2 car, I think we can safely say that his day is done. Looks like he's drifting round the corner. We shouldn't laugh because that's an expensive bit of damage, but the car it's got a serious amount of right hand down to keep that pointing in the right direction, isn't it? Mike David Ortman there, Phil Durr, then Nikolai Moller-Madsen behind, who is under investigation. Car 2, a penalty lap. Well, he's not really going to take that, is he? Because crab round to the penalty box, he'll struggle to get it in there, I should think. I think car 2 is going to retire to the pit, so the race stewards have awarded a penalty lap if by some miracle he were able to continue, but trust me, he won't. Here he comes into, there's something, I don't know why it's so comical, but it's really a car coming in at that angle into the pit box. He slides in, and the engine will be off and that car will be loaded back onto the transporter. A bit of work to do on that before it returns the Hockenheimring next time around.
Yeah, that is firmly ready to go home and get some repairs, isn't it? Mike David Ortman, 1.4 seconds clear now at the sharp end of the order. That gap has gone out slightly since Phil Durr rejoined behind him, and Tim Reiter there showing discontentment with the entire situation. Yeah. And unfortunately, he's been judged as the one at fault, and so has Nikolai Moller-Madsen from 3rd place. He's going to lose at least one position to Ben Durr for this that has been deemed to be an unsafe release. Here comes the Aston Martin. Nikolai Moller-Madsen tries to beat him there. He drives in the lane which is reserved for pit crews and other marshals and safety crew members, and that has been judged to be an unsafe release.
We did say it was drag racing. He clearly wants to make a point with Phil Durr before he visits the penalty box. He's still harassing him. Maybe they haven't given him the message yet, but this is the fight for 2nd place. Phil Durr and the number 69 Aston Martin. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, the 2020 GT4 champion, following him all the way, but he would do well to get this penalty lap out of the way as quickly as possible. He's got 3 laps in which he must serve it, otherwise a bigger penalty, probably a drive-through, would be incoming. At the moment, he's probably steaming and just burning off a bit of energy. Along the pit straight he comes. Let's see as they head into turn 1 in a few moments and come out of that, whether he ducks off into the penalty box. He will certainly lose at least one position. He looks to the inside. To visit the penalty box, he's going to have to lose a bit of speed, and he chooses not to do it. I wonder if there's a little bit of negotiation going on with the race stewards.
Could be. I'm not sure they'd succeed in doing so, but yes, could be. They do, I believe, much like a drive-through penalty, have 3 laps to serve a penalty lap, so not over that line just yet. And I think, to your point, very much trying to prove a point to Phil Durr, but in doing so, he's holding himself up and is very obviously going to lose a position to Ben Durr, who is closing up behind in the 007 car. They've also got to worry about Viskirchen and Prim in 5th and 6th place. And in fact, we have had a switch for 5th place because Simon Connor Prim has got past Viskirchen on this lap.
So lots of place changes going up and down the pack. Actually, the quickest lap of the race so far, just looking at the timing screens, was Patrick Steinmetz on 1:27.7 in the Schubert Motorsport BMW. You can see if the race finished now, Mike David Ortman and Hugo Sasser would extend their lead to 19 points over Indy Dontra. Phil Durr, Ben Durr, Romain Leroux would be 27 points adrift. There will only be 50 points available after this race. There are just 2 races left this season, both at the Hockenheimring at the end of October. So the championship is coming to a head. Mike David Ortman and Hugo Sasser moving to the top of it at just the right time. However, they need to survive the next 18 minutes plus 1 lap.
Moller-Madsen with the emergency lights. He's coming in and does so now. He's going to fall behind 2 of the Durr Aston Martins and maybe Viskirchen. No, not quite.
No, but Viskirchen, well, it takes a moment to get back up to speed, doesn't it? And of course, it's a bit dirty off the racing line as well, but he's managed to do that, but that has caused him a real trauma in terms of trying to end up on the podium. We've got a yellow at turn 12, and it is the number 20 car. That is there, Lucas Meyer, who's had a bit of a moment. Look at the black marks on the tarmac. I don't know if those are his. They may be. He goes onto the grass, so all is good. We're not going to need a safety car for that. Let's have a look, see what happened. And looks like he got together. We want the CV Performance Mercedes, maybe. And yes, those were his tyre tracks. It's going to take a scrubbing, isn't it, to get those off. Number 20 car pointing in exactly the opposite direction that he wants to go.
I think, actually, I don't think he got contact there. I think he was just trying to get to the inside of the corner to hold on to his position, asked too much of the tyres and got a loop for his troubles. We'll have to wait and see if that does get any sort of investigation or anything, but didn't look like there was contact, at least not major contact. There might have been a tiny little bit. Nonetheless, for the 20 crew, unfortunately, the race has has gone from decent to rather miserable, down in 24th place.
Very miserable indeed. Not miserable for Mike David Ortman, though. He's extended his lead to over 3 seconds from Phil Dorr. Ben Dorr in 3rd place ahead of Simon Connor Prim. It is an Aston Martin. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a Porsche. 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a song in there somewhere. Yes. Jan-Philipp Springhob in the Mercedes, the highest Mercedes, all the way down in 9th place. We have 16.25 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. It isn't just about pace, though. To remind you, tyres have been an issue all weekend. We've seen so many cars with punctures in the closing stages of the race. And then there is, of course, the weather. You can see the black clouds, they are gathering all around. The thunderstorms that are being threatened as we see Indy Doncha walking across the pit lane. The thunderstorms have held off so far. The drivers, I think all of us are hoping it's going to hold off for another quarter of an hour. I don't think we need any rain to make this any more exciting. This is the view of Phil Dorr. In some ways a little bit depressing because the leader, Mike David Ortman, is well in the distance now.
Yeah, the gap's gone out by another 1.1 seconds in the last 3 laps or so. So Mike David Ortman systematically lapping slightly better than his fellow Aston Martin driver. There's the first of the Porsches, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, down in 5th place. He will be hoping to at least pick his way past Simon Connor Prim, and if the brothers Durr could maybe get into each other as well, that would suit Nikolai Moller-Madsen just fine.
Yes, that makes for awkward conversation over the dinner table, doesn't it? I'm sure they've talked about this many, many times. Of course, Phil Durr, the older brother of Ben Durr, the two are running together. The 007 car of Ben Durr and Romain Leroux still looking for their first win in the ADAC GT4. They would dearly love to do that. Unfortunately, there's the brother in front and the even bigger problem of Mike David Ortman, some 2.8 seconds up the road. So they have taken a couple of tenths out of the lead. And there's Cannon. We saw him at the Nürburgring. They fired him out of a cannon with that helmet on, and he's sat there chilling in the pit lane. It's having great entertainment, as indeed are the large crowd of people that are here. The spectators have been flocking here this weekend for a wonderful weekend of ADAC racing. We've had GT Masters, GT4, TCR, and lots of other things as well. But I have to say, GT4 does tend to steal the headlines at the moment because the racing is so close and so good. And this fight between the Doors, a Dorr scrap. Phil Dorr in 2nd, Ben Dorr in 3rd. In the background is Simon Connor Prim.
Great scrap this then between the two Motorsport Aston Martins. They could well be joined by Simon Connor Prim in the not too distant future, because it does look as though he's closing up, and I think he wants them to know it because he's flashing the headlights as he runs down the main straight towards the first corner, and he's got to worry about Moller-Madsen behind. Meanwhile, side by side for P8, Springhob with a nose ahead in the Mercedes gets by Max Kronberg. I thought I said at the top of the program, I thought Hendrik Stoll and Max Kronberg would be podium contenders here. Now down to 9th place from 4th on the grid.
And while we were looking at that, Pavel Lefterov found a route past Moritz Viskersen as well, so he's up into 6th place, and they are looking to match their best result of the season, which was a 6th place at the Red Bull Ring. Here's a replay of that moment that we just saw with Max Kronberg and Jan-Philipp Springhob, and the very rapid BMW of Michael von Zabienski has had a moment. So another BMW in problems. Now what happened there? Let's have a look. Oh yes, indeed, getting together with Sandra Holzen in the 97 Aston Martin, a little tag. And that will be no doubt investigated by the stewards. Doesn't look, well, certainly there's no damage that can be seen, but who knows what part of the car was impacted.
Yes, tagged by a twin. Reminds me of my days at primary school, actually. There goes the battle for 2nd place.
I can't tell you how dodgy that sounded.
I know, I'm sorry. Phil and Bender in 2nd and 3rd place still, and still gaining on Mike David Ortman, actually, as well. The gap down to 2.6 seconds. Contain yourself, Brian, as they run through turns 2 and 3.
It's a struggle.
It really is. Bender is looking to prove a point. I've always said I really want to see these two share a car, perhaps in GT Masters in the future. conclusion of this battle may well determine whether that ever happens. If they both end up in the gravel trap, I think my aspirations of that might end up being put on ice for another year.
It may well determine whether they ever speak to each other again, I should think. Mike David Ortman, you get the feeling that he has got this well under control. Yes, the gap is shrinking between first and second, but with 11.5 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining, tyre degradation, we keep saying it, getting to the end with a bit of rubber on the tyres and also not picking up a puncture is so critical, and Mike David Ortman is a wise driver and he will know that. You can see there from the graphic on your screen that Sandro Holzem has got a drive-through penalty for that moment, pushing the number 10 BMW. So a visit to the pit lane, a drive-through penalty, that is about as big as it gets. So that is going to drop him to the absolute stone last position.
It is. Here comes the leader gaining on some traffic there. So that is the 20 car of Meyer, of course, recovering from that spin earlier. There goes Ben Durr up the inside. Got a good run out of the final corner. Just about gets the car to the apex to stifle the run of Phil Durr. Well, thankfully they did it without any contact. I imagine it comes off their own wages if they crash the family race cars.
So younger brother overtaking the older brother. Ben Durr really does want to improve on the whole raft of second places he's had along with Romain Leroux and find that elusive first win in ADAC GT4. I was looking so far 4 second places, looking like 5 at the moment unless they can do something about Mike David Ortman. But Ben Durr, the driver who is the brother of Phil Durr, and Phil Durr, who has been leading the championship all season long up until yesterday along with Indy Doncha, and now down to 3rd place. This is not going to help the championship challenge. Clearly Ben is not thinking about helping his brother to win the championship.
Yeah, now it's Ben Durr, or rather, sorry, Phil Durr under pressure from Simon Connor Prim, as well as they now close in on Meyer in the number 20 car. Desperately flashing the headlights is Phil Durr, saying, I really don't need a bad run out of the final corner. Thankfully, he didn't get one, but is Simon Connor Prim going to be able to set up a move at turn 1?
Who was that ducking into the pits? That was the 20 car, wasn't it, into the pits? So Lucas Meyer, and then calling it a day. I should think those tyres are the shape of 50p pieces. He'll clonk those back into the pits, park it up, and oh no, this is a penalty.
Drive-through pen.
Drive-through. No, it isn't. No, it was 97 who had that, wasn't it? As you were. Don't panic, everybody. So car 20 into the pits. Yes, clearly an issue going on there. Denis Bolotov did a good job in qualifying, but Lucas Meyer having that big moment, and the hexagonal, or however many flat sides there are on those tyres, will be discarded and they will turn their focus to Hockenheim. Yeah, we're all biting our fingernails here. We still got 8 3/4 minutes, and it is still all to play for. Anything could happen. Max Kronberg is up to 8th place ahead of Moritz Viskersen, so Porsche overtaking Porsche. But yes,
that coping mechanism is all well and good until you're doing it and you drop it in the sink, isn't it? That's high risk. Yes. There come the Durr Motorsports Aston Martins down the waterfall, and it's still Phil Durr ahead of Simon Connor Prim. I wish they'd paint those 2 cars in a different shade of colour.
Don't we all?
Green and white on both cars does make things tricky. Simon Connor Prim for now remains behind the elder, or rather the younger of the Durrs, isn't it? Phil's the younger one, yep. And
no, Phil's the older one.
I always get mixed up, I do it.
Yeah, younger one in front.
Yeah, there you go. So Ben showing the way at the moment.
Yeah.
And there is always that element of competition between brothers, isn't it? Especially because you remember all of those years where you were little and you got beaten at the running races and they were better at the penalty shootout. Now you're in an Aston Martin, you breeze by. That's going to be a little bit satisfying.
Me and my brother ended up punching each other long before we got in the car. Right, we're riding on board with Gabriel Piana, defending champion, running in 13th place and challenging Julian Hanses. That car has been in the battles a little bit. It looks to be still has a reasonable amount of pace, but Julian Hanses also with the weight penalty from yesterday in that 12th place. And Gabriel Piana looking at the back of the Mercedes, looking at their championship that they've enjoyed for the last 12 months, slipping away both Gabriel Piana and Mikael Schreyer, of course, who have been driving that car, which at times last year was so dominant.
Yeah, they've just not had the run of form this year, and even when the races have been clean, they haven't been that quick. It seems as though it's been a struggling year for them. I'm curious to see what their 2023 program entails. One would expect it may include the new generation M4 GT4 in 2023, or maybe they've got an eye on a GT3. I think the 2023 M4 GT3 order book has opened fairly recently, so maybe there will be a Bonk Motorsports name on there somewhere.
Put me down for 2.
Oh, wow. You really are being paid.
Yeah, no, I really don't. I'd like to just draw attention to the car number 15, who is behind Gabriel Piana, Dominic Fugel. We haven't mentioned him today. A local driver from Chemnitz, a former TCR Germany driver, knows his way around the Sachsenring very well indeed, and it's great to welcome him here guesting as we look at Hugo Sasser. He's not looking especially chilled, is he? Smile, that's good. But Dominic Fugel has taken to GT4 racing like the proverbial, and has been very good on both days, currently in 14th place. We look at Hugo Sasser's teammate, Mike David Ortman, who's taken over all the hard work. It was Hugo Sasser who put the car on the front row, outside front row, at the start of this race, and dropped back to 3rd place, but then some great pit stop work. Looked like they were going to get mugged in the pit stop. They did the exact opposite, did the undercut, came out in front, and Mike David Ortman has led from then on. He needs to keep it going for another 5.5 minutes or so, plus 1 lap. If he does, that is what the championship will look like. 20 points clear of Ben Dunn, Romain Leroux, Indy Doncha and Phil Durr, who have led this championship all season long, will drop down to 3rd. That really will be a horrible thing for Doncha and Durr to get their head around.
I don't think any of us would have seen that coming at the start of the weekend. And look at this battle among the Porsches. Here comes Pavel Lefterov, and indicating there, Nikolai Molomadsen, he indicated over to the left. I think he rather gave that one away. I think maybe struggling with the tyres.
Well, I have to say, that's great mature driving. You'd expect that from Nikolai Molomadsen, the 2020 champion in ADAC GT4, a wise driver who has been coaching Finn Zulauf and doing a great job, and he knew he didn't have the legs to hold off the number 23 car, so handed that position over. That'll be 5th place, and that will be their best result in GT4 this year if they can finish in that order. Looking again, and he says, I am going to the left, so you can go to the right, and that's exactly what happens. A nice bit of orchestrated manoeuvre and some great gentlemanly behaviour, sometimes not seen in GT4 racing.
No, very true. I did note as well there in that replay that we had Vincent Andronacco coming into pit lane. They had gearbox issues yesterday once Leo Pichler took the car over. It seems as though things have not gone well today either.
No, it's an unusual day where we haven't been talking about Vincent Andronacco, because he's normally just going for it, hell for leather, but he hasn't, as you say, had a lot of luck today. Leo Pichler qualified the car, Vincent Andronacco's taken it over, but you do get a feeling that there are some issues outstanding with that car. Currently down in 24th place and likely to be dropping further now. We look there at the 95 car. That is Simon Connor Prim, who is at the hand of that, in the seat of that car. And Simon Connor Prim continuing on his way in 4th place. Question is, will Pavel Lefterov be able to wind him in? Last time there was 3.6 seconds between them, so that's quite a lot to find in 3 minutes plus 1 lap.
Yeah, still 4 Aston Martins then in the top 4. I was speaking to a couple of the engineers that are here from Aston Martin Racing to look after the veritable armada of Astons that they've got here, and they were saying we always expect it to be rough going. Yesterday went fairly well for them though, so they were quite relieved, and I'd say based on an all Aston podium that looks to happen in just a couple of minutes, they'll be happier still today. Meanwhile, a bit of a salvage job going on here for Gabriele Piana. He's all over the back of Julian Hansis, who, as we mentioned earlier on, that 85 car has been in amongst it, hasn't it?
And I think looking at yesterday's race, there's been a fair run on Porsche spares as well. There's been a few of them in the wars. But yes, Julian Hanses doing a great job holding off defending champion Gabriel Piana. 2 minutes of racing remaining plus the 1 lap. Fingers crossed, I can still see blue skies just above our commentary position, so we're hoping they're going to stay that way. We don't need any little dramas in the closing stages of this race. It is Mike David Ortmann leading the way, but our focus now is on the battle for 11th place. Gabriel Piana going to the outside into turn 13. That takes some whatnots of steel. He does get 2 wheels out onto the gravel, but he's holding that line. If he can stay out there, he would have had the inside line into turn 1, but Hanses moves across, shuts the door. Now picking up the slipstream as they head along the pits. Piana moves to the outside of Hanses. Hanses is only allowed 1 change of direction, and there's a little bit of contact. They bounce off each other, under braking into the corner. Hanses has that faster inside line. Piana has to go deep into the corner, and Hanses still holding on to that 11th place. It's great to see them fighting so hard, even for the minor positions.
Yeah, of course, it's all points, and while neither of these cars are a factor in the championship, I'm sure a top 10 position or an 11th or 12th place positions are still coveted. As you said, a little bit of contact between the 2 of them there. Whom was the instigator, I wonder? I don't think there was one, really. I think they just kind of slowly drifted into each other on the straight, and well, I think that's the 2nd or 3rd time I've seen that CV Performance Group Mercedes have contact and get away with it. They have a rabbit's foot somewhere in the pit awning, clearly.
May I remind you that Julian Hans has cut his teeth in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. They know how to rub whilst racing. And Julian Hans is a great guy, a real character, but certainly not one to back off and say after you, as might have been the case that we saw elsewhere on the track, let's say. This is the fight for the last of the podium races. So Simon Connor Prim has found a little bit of pace in the 95 car, now threatening fellow team member Phil Dorr, really struggling for pace here, and it does feel as though they've run out of tyres on the number 69 car, and that championship lead that looks so comfortable is slipping away. That's car number 10, Mikhail von Zabienski, once again in the walls. You can see the black marks where it's gone spinning near that solid concrete wall. I hope he's managed to miss that. He hasn't. And that wall does not move. Oh, that has kind of done a fair bit of damage. This might... Well, I don't know if we're going to see a safety car because the clock has struck 0. Ortmann is out towards turn 12. So they might try and cover this off under a yellow flag just for the final lap of the race. Here comes Mike David Ortmann up to turn 14, and he will be about to commence his final lap of the race, looking to make it 2 out of 2 this weekend here at the Sachsenring. Confirmation this is the final lap. They crossed the line, so looks like they're going to try and cover this off with a yellow flag, leave the number 10 car there. But second place, Ben Dorr, Phil Dorr. Of course, there will be no overtaking where that number 10 car is stranded. You can't overtake under a yellow, and the stewards will be watching for that.
Yeah, absolutely they will. That will be monitored to the nth degree at turns 8 and 9. And there come the cars through Castrol Omega for what will be the final time. Mike David Ortmann just has to nurse the car around for one more lap. We saw Hugo Sasser flash us a smile earlier, albeit after looking very tense for a few seconds beforehand. I'm sure it's only getting worse until he crosses the line, and then he can feel the sense of elation knowing that he could be one step closer to a championship here in ADAC GT4 Germany. I'm not sure there's been an advantage of 20 points at any stage in the season, but that's what's on the cusp for them.
Past the stricken number 10 car they go for the last time, and now towards the waterfall for the very last time. Mike David Ortmann is into the traffic, but that doesn't matter too much. He goes around the outside of the 84 car. Don't trip up on the penultimate corner, please. Phil Dorr can see up ahead of him the car that he so wanted to beat, but it's not going to happen today, because out of turn 14 comes Mike David Ortmann. The back marking car goes spinning, but it's Ortmann who crosses the line for the win with Hugo Sasser. It's 2 out of 2 for Mike David Ortmann, Hugo Sasser, Ben Dorr, Phil Dorr, Simon Connor Prim. Great job from Pavel Lefterov in 5th place. We're waiting for Jan Philipp Springhoff, but they've all got that little surprise and it is a blind crest into turn 14, so they're going to come around there, and it's going to be the shock of the century when they see the 84 Mercedes there.
Yeah, hopefully not trying to do a 3-point turn on arrival is probably the preference there. Kronberg across the line 7th, ahead of Nikolai Moller-Madsen, I think. Did Moller-Madsen cross the line in 8th? Eventually, no. Moller-Madsen down to 9th. I thought Vassathura was close. I didn't think he'd quite get past, but there we go. And I must say, good result as well for Tom Wood and Ewan Mackay. They were on the 10th row of the grid, and they managed to get themselves up to 10th.
So good to see them getting a result. It has been an up and down season for them. There is the 84 car of Ferdinand Winter going spinning into the corner. And this was the view from Phil Durr, and he suddenly thought, oh no, I'm going to lose my 3rd place here at this rate. But he makes his way around the car. As far as I'm aware, no one else collected it, so all's good. And is this what happened here? It was a Hofer Racing by Bonk Motorsport BMW. Oh, that is Piana and Hanses still going at it, hammer and tongs. It eventually went the way of Piana as a result of this move.
Well, yes, it did, but keep an eye on turn 14 here. Are there still yellow flags? Because that is where the car was spun. The 84 CV machine, no, there were not yellow flags displayed at that point. So Piana's overtake was A, very good, and B, legal. Perfect.
And that is why he is the defending champion in the ADAC GT4. It's Mike David Ortman, Hugo Sasser, a flawless performance ahead of Ben Durr, Romain Leroux, Phil Durr and Indy Doncha in the top 3. This is really big for the championship. Simon Conneprem, Nico Hanker 4th, ahead of Pavel Leftrop and Stefan Bastanchev in 5th. Jan-Philipp Springer, Robin Falkenbach in 6th, ahead of Max Kronberg, Henrik Still, Leon Vassathur and Donna Munding rounding out the top 8 in the Pro Sport Racing Aston Martin. Nikolai Moller-Madsen and Finn Zulav after that visit to the penalty box in 9th, ahead of Tom Wood and Ewan Mackay. Gabriel Piana and Mikael Stray fighting for 11th with Julian Hanses and William Tregurtha. And then Robert Haub and Teo Noe. We had Reinhard Koffler in the 89 car along with Josef Knott. We didn't even mention them. We welcomed back Reinhard Koffler in the KTM Crossbow. They finished in 14th place. Those are the rest of the results. You can read them for yourself if you want.
You think that was a lot of cars? I understand we're oversubscribed at the moment for the Hockenheim season finale, so
really?
We may have even more cars come next time out. Actually, I was speaking to the drivers of the 73 car, which didn't start, Alan Gabay and Alex Stefanov. They said, yeah, we wanted to be on the grid for Hockenheim in preparation for perhaps a full season next year, but couldn't get there. Too many entries, nothing in way of space for us.
Wow, well, that's a great way to be. The ADAC GT4 category is in a great place at the moment. A great place for Phil Durr and Indy Doncha, but not as great as they wanted. They needed the top step to get back at the top of the championship. They've only got the 3rd step in this race. Ben Durr and Romain Leroux beating the brother there into 2nd place in another of the pesky Aston Martins, one of the 4 that finished in the top 4. The fastest of them all, despite a weight penalty after yesterday's success. Mike David Ortman and Hugo Sasser. Who can stop the dynamic duo? Well, I can't think of anybody. They go even further to the top of the championship standings in the number 24 Pro Sport Aston Martin. And music fades away. You can sit down again now. And there is the Mikhail von Zabienski, Schubert Motorsport BMW. That was a big clunk. We saw one of TCR cars just missing that concrete wall yesterday at much bigger speed, it has to be said. And you know that wall does not move. There's a very solid bank behind it as well. And there's a much more forgiving piece of Armco, but sadly he missed that. There's also the Toyota being retrieved from the Castrol Omega turn, and that just says it all really, doesn't it? It's like, oh, damn, I appear to have broken it. That's the word, yeah. Search for the right word there.
Such a helpless incident as well, because he ended up on the marbles going out of turn 8, where there are a lot of them. And so the car was wildly understeering all through the corner. He then gets out of the corner, ends up on the edge of the gravel. He goes from understeer to sudden snap oversteer into the concrete barrier. That really is a harsh way to end his day. Hopefully, Schubert Motorsport can get that car back out for Hockenheim.
Well, if anybody has the expertise and resources, it's Schubert Motorsport, and they will get that sorted. They've got a few weeks. It's towards the end of October, 21st to 23rd, before this season comes to a stop, and it really is all to play for, as you can see there from the points, because there's 20 points between first and second. Ortmann and Sasser at the top, Durr and Leroux 20 points adrift. Indy Doncha, Phil Durr having gone from the lead of the points yesterday morning to third, 23 points adrift. Marcel Inez, Cedric Pirot now out of the championship hunt because there are now just 50 points remaining. We have the 6 drivers who are going to be shooting it out for the title of champion of the ADAC GT4 in 2022. And there are the rest of the points scrolling through. So defending champions, Gabriel Piano, Mikael Schrader down in 6th place. They started the season so strongly. They had a double win at the Red Bull Ring. It is a circuit that seems to favour the BMW, but they haven't really found that kind of form anywhere else. A couple of non-finishes as well. And of course, it isn't necessarily wins that win championship. It is just consistency, race in, race out. And that's what we've had from Hugo Sasser and Mike David Ortmann. They did have a non-finish at the Red Bull Ring, but they have had 3, now make that 4 wins as well, and lots of consistent places when they haven't won. We're just waiting for them now to make their way up onto the podium. I am so pleased that the rain held off because we really didn't need that level of drama.
No. I think we've had enough mixed weather races in GT4 after Zandvoort earlier this year.
And there's not enough spare parts available for all the cars in the rain. Right, here comes 3rd place. Indy Doncha, they're not looking too ecstatic about that because it hasn't been the weekend they wanted. Phil Durr alongside onto the 3rd step of the podium. They have got a mountain to climb when they get to Hockenheim at the end of October. But they are the people to do it. And there's the 007 crew, complete with Bond ties. We love the bow ties in the 007 crew, Ben Durr, Romain Leroux. But once again, stealing the headlines, the bromance continues. Hugo Sasser, Mike David Ortmann. 2 drivers that, if they stick together, they remind me very much of Dries Vanthoor and Charles Witt, actually, the way they work together in great harmony. There they are on the top step of the podium, winning race 10 of the season. So the representative from Pro Sport also onto the podium. And in a few moments, we'll wait for the national anthem. Proud moment as the German national anthem echoes around the Sachsenring arena. Here come those trophies. Mikael Sachser, not Sasser, from the Sachsenring area, presenting the trophy to our winners. And they are wonderful trophies. And you can see why they need the seat insert. Hugo Sasser is about 3 foot taller than Mike David Ortmann. There's the 2nd place trophies presented by Peter Weidinger.
I'll never get over those bow ties. Fabulous little addition to the 007 team.
I think you should wear yours at Hockenheim. That would be quite amusing for all of us.
I don't think I have a button-up shirt that fits, unfortunately.
I don't have a tie that fits. There's the 3rd place trophy that has been awarded to Indy Doncha. And also to Phil Durr. And there is the Constructors Trophy as well. Not Constructors, Team Trophy. Not Formula 1, is it? The Team Trophy that's awarded to Pro Sport. So, we pose for a photograph, and I have to say, Indy Doncha and Phil Durr not looking especially delighted with proceedings, but they will regather The championship is going to go down to the last race. You just know it. Mike David Ortman and Hugo Sasser leave the Sachsenring in exactly the position they wanted, with 2 out of 2 wins. They've taken a maximum point score here in round 5 of the ADAC GT4. If they can do anything like that again at the Hockenheim Ring, they will be taking their first ever championship in ADAC GT4 Germany.